Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Best pop culture witch.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcasts should have a theme song. Podcasts should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it.
You know what?
You're right. We got this.
Double, toil and trouble.
Oh, stop.
Come on. You gotta start with something witchy,
I haven't
right?
seen you in like a month. We started recording like 2 minutes after you came in.
I walked in the door, sat down, and sat at a mic, and that's the first thing I've said to Hal. I haven't seen you in a month. How you been, buddy?
I've been good. How are you?
I'm great. Hey.
How's theater camp?
Theater camp was awesome. We're about to go. I've got to go to theater camp round 2 coming up.
Yeah.
But before that, I came to Los Angeles for just one day in order to see Mr. Ben Blacker, our guest today.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Ben.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for
to
having
have
me.
you.
You have a lovely home.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Hal.
Oh, yeah, Hal.
And thanks to Forever Dog for having us in their studio today, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
And you'll be recording some Thrilling Adventure Hour as soon as we conclude.
That's
It is
right.
back. It comes out. In fact, today you were listening to this on the 31st of October,
That's right.
and the Thrilling Adventure
wow.
Hour is
Yeah.
back. Also out is Hex Wives, the new comic by Ben Blacker, part of
Correct.
the Vertigo relaunch, which I have I got to read like a month ago because I'm very special, and it is so good that I started. I saw Ben like the night that after I read it, I started begging him to let me read the next issue. But all that feeds into our topic, which is best pop culture witch. Before we get to that.
Yes.
Tell us about Hex Wives.
Yes.
that
What have you
everybody
been
should
doing since
go,
we last
please.
saw you?
Listen, I needed Gags to leave town so I could get some work done.
Fair enough.
Stop texting. Stop calling.
What am I
Thrilling's
doing
not coming
stuff?
back. Oh, shoot. It is coming back. Oh, it is coming back. All right. Fine. Hex Wives is a new comic I have from, as you said, the DC Vertigo relaunch. They have 6 or 7 new books. I've gotten to read 6 of them. There are 7.
Are you the 7th and have not read it because it's the one you wrote?
No, I'm the second out of the gate,
Oh.
which is a lot of pressure because the first was a wild success. It's
Great.
called Border Town. People should go check it out. Hex Wives is basically Bewitched meets the Stepford Wives. It's about a powerful coven of witches who don't know that they are being secretly controlled by men who fear them. So it's a documentary about
Great.
gender politics.
Yes.
That's great. It's it's so good, and it's the same
Thank
coven through history.
Yes.
Like it traces them through history.
They are immortal. They are basically immortal. I had to listen. Here's the thing. All these years doing Thrilling Adventure Hour, like I don't care about magic rules because it's pretend.
right.
And so
Right.
very often, like in the sci-fi of Sparks Nevada or in the horror and magic stuff of Beyond Belief, we're like, maybe that contradicts something we did previously.
Yeah.
We can sort of talk
In
around
Sparks,
it.
there was always a ray.
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
well, how does that happen? There's a ray.
That's the least interesting part
Yeah.
of sci-fi or horror or fantasy or whatever to me.
Yeah.
But here, because they're being put down and are not so fleeting as I always considered thrilling, I really had to come up with the rules. So the witches are pretty much immortal.
Immortish.
They can be killed, but they're reborn in
Gotcha.
their present bodies. But they've been fighting this group of white men called the Architects over thousands of years. And then in our first episode, I almost said in our pilot. In our pilot,
You've been in
issue-
television too long. Yes.
Yeah. In the first issue, one of these architects is like, "Why do we keep killing them if they keep coming back? Let's do something different." And so they basically enslaved them to be these suburban housewives, like a bunch of Betty Drapers. But yeah, it came from like watching an episode of Bewitched and thinking Samantha is this crazy powerful witch who is so worried about getting dinner on the table for her husband and Mr. Tate when they come home.
Yeah.
When like, and Endora would come over and tell her she married beneath her, and she was right.
Yeah.
Like Samantha should have been ruling the world.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a really great exploration of that. It's a really great exploration of gender politics and what men do.
Yeah.
And just in case you're listening and are not aware, Ben worked with a number of women on this. I know you've been like, you didn't do it alone by any stretch of the imagination.
It was important to me that like the book be honest. And my editors, Molly and Maggie, are phenomenal collaborators. This is the first thing I've written by myself in 15 years without Ben Acker, and I was terrified about that. And Ben sort of like said, go do it, give this a try. It's clearly something you want to do. And Molly and Maggie, the editors, have been the collaborators that I needed to help tell the story. My artist, Mirka Andolfo, is incredible. She has an unbelievable design sense and brings so much life to these characters. Like, she made me care about the characters more than I already did. Like, I feel responsible now. Now that, like, she's made them human.
Now they're in the van and I'm driving. I hope I don't hit anything.
Yeah, exactly. And my colorist, Marissa Louise, is like, she elevates every single page, every single panel. There's stuff in there that, in that first issue even, that I didn't realize was as important as it was until I saw her colors come back. So it's an amazing team. We want to write this book for 100 issues. We want to do this for years and work together. And the only way we get to do that is if people buy it. So
that's right.
Please buy it. It's out Halloween.
Yeah. Which is when this episode drops. So guess what? If you go to a bookstore, it'll be there.
Yeah. And if it's not there, demand that they stock it, because that's how comic books get into shops. It's not all Spider-Man that just shows up. You have to go ask for what you want and they will go get it for you. That is how that economy works. It's weird to say this. We always do like the plugs at the end of the show, but I really want the television. At first I was like, I really want the movie, but I want the television series more.
Yeah.
I want the comic book. I'll be honest with you.
Let's let the comic book run.
Let's read the comic book.
Yeah.
Well, I just said let's watch the comic book.
Let's watch it.
Let's watch the pilot of this comic book.
Solid 3-year run of comics. And then as the comics continue, then it's like, we got to get the TV show going.
There you go.
I would love it. I mean, it feels like there's a whole world here, and I can't get enough of witches.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, I did a deep dive, so let's get into it.
Good.
Yeah.
I do want to say before we begin, this, you mentioned gender politics. I realized that, having mentioned what topic we were going to do to a couple of friends of mine, the response generally was, oof, tread lightly. And I was like, okay. So I will say, as far as the gender politics and the treatment of, women and witchcraft throughout the centuries, we are allies, not experts. On this, we are talking today strictly about pop culture, fun, witches from movies and TV shows and things that we enjoy.
Yes.
So if you will allow this, gentlemen, as our jumping off point, a way that we frequently deal with topics on this show is we will break them down into categories. We will pick a winner from each category, and then we will have a final wherein we choose the winner out of this. So I've broken this down, and thanks to Kate McManus for a giant, exhaustive amount of research that she has put together for this. I've pulled much of that research and reordered some of the things. So Kate, don't get mad, into different topics, but we have all of the research about those particular witches in front of us as well.
I think this is the lightest you've ever tread or trodden upon anything.
I know.
It's a lot of apologies from you.
I know, because I feel like this is a thing where this is a thing that I know that this really, people get very passionate about this and the history of it and everything that, the connotations that come along with something like this.
Let me do so people can cover this elsewhere. As part of the ramp up for Hexwives over the past 4 months or so, as part of the Writers Panel podcast, which I've been doing for many years, I've been having the sort of 15 or so minute phone calls with pop culture witches, women who wrote or played them, and a couple men who wrote them, but who, like Winnie Holtzman, creator of My So-Called Life, also wrote the book for Wicked.
Oh, okay.
We had a great conversation. I did a pop culture witches panel.
That is, whose wife is that?
Paul Dooley.
Paul Dooley's wife, yes.
Yes.
His name escaped me for a second.
He prefers Winnie Holtzman's husband.
Yes.
Yeah, of course he does.
He does. Yes, he does.
But I did a couple of pop culture witches panels at San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, and I've put those out on the Writers Panel feed. So like a lot of the stuff about really, it always comes down to empowerment, and what that means and sort of the naming of monsters and the taking away of power and the fear of female power.
Right.
We cover a lot of that stuff, with an amazing, I'll say coven, but panel of witches, on both of those.
Pretty sure it's pronounced
episodes.
Coven.
Oh, gross.
Come on, American movie, one of the all-time greats.
It is a great one.
All right, so here's how this is broken down, and please, I will read off the lists as we go. And if you think that I have missed any in a particular category, we'll stick with that. Our categories are trios, pop culture witches, myth and folklore, and cartoon witches.
Okay.
So let's start with trios. I only have 3 on this one, and that would be the 3 women of Charmed, the 3 women of Hocus Pocus, and the 3 witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Who I would consider they're the trope codifier for
Right.
pop culture witches.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Who really don't do anything bad. All they do is they tell him, he comes to them for advice, and they give him what they see. That's what
true.
they do. They don't interfere in any way. And a lot of times that's the case with a lot of these. They are chaotic neutrals frequently.
Interesting.
Witches are.
I see. This is a thing I've been thinking about, knowing we were going to have this conversation, is like, how do I like to see my pop culture witches? And I like them to have some teeth.
Okay.
You know?
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right about
Bette
Macbeth's
Midler had
witches.
giant teeth.
She sure did.
In
Yes,
Hocus
sure
Pocus.
did. Those
But I'm
choppers,
too
too.
old for that movie.
Fair enough.
That was, I had a practicing witch on the writers panel recently, and that episode went out this week, and she talked about the influence of Hocus Pocus on her, because she's like maybe 5 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that movie is huge for a certain
I feel like I
age.
just missed
Yeah,
it.
you're
Is
right.
that-
Yes.
I'm
Same.
39. You're 41.
Yeah, we're all in the same neighborhood.
So it was like, it
where
was
we're too old.
just,
Yeah. My sister was super into it.
we were the age that was like, that's a kid's movie.
Yeah, the movie I remember is the Disney Channel one where the girl goes away to school. It's not the worst witch,
No.
but it's like I know you know who I'm talking
I do.
about. She was like a Fred Savage. It's like not Robin Lively, but I think her name was Robin.
The
was
one
her-
from The Craft.
No,
This isn't
no.
Teen Witch.
Was it her?
Yeah. It
Oh,
was
there
her.
you go. Then it was.
If there's only some way to find this out.
Wait, does
was
this
Robin
does this
Lively.
actor only play witches?
I'll
She's
never-
played witches twice. Once when she was like 13 or 14, which is what this movie
Right.
was.
And then
once
Is
in
that
The
in
Craft.
our
And then again in The
research from
Craft.
Kate? I think
that would be a trio as well.
The Craft.
The Craft?
The Craft.
What's a
Absolutely.
quartet,
The
isn't it?
Craft.
I thought
Are
the
there
Craft
four?
was-
There are
right.
4 of them.
Because there's 3 of them, and then there's Fairuza Balk,
Right.
the
Oh, that's
crazy villainous
right.
one.
But back to Macbeth.
Yes.
You are both theater nerds. Do you
Yes.
have a favorite portrayal of the witches in Macbeth? Which, by the way, that's my vote for this bracket.
I feel
Yeah.
like that has to be. They are the prototype.
I don't even
for it.
remember the first one you said.
Charmed.
Charmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard
Which
the
is
new
now
Charmed
back.
is great.
Yeah, Charm's awesome.
And Charmed is the original Charmed was great because it was 3 empowered women, and it ran for a very long time. And they switched casts a bunch. I think Rose McGowan was a replacement for
Shannon Doherty.
For Shannon Doherty, yeah.
For this, I think this was also the first show that I vividly remember coming out in my teenage to young adulthood that is being rebooted. And I was
funny.
I was like, Charmed. I was like, Charmed, the reboot. Oh, I'm an old man.
That's great.
It's my first thing I've witnessed that was like, this is clearly a reboot of a thing that I remember from adulthood.
Yeah, here's a reboot of stuff from when
But
you were
have
in
you
college.
seen a production of Macbeth where you thought they got the witches right, or you loved the portrayal?
Yes. I mean, I saw a live stage production of it where I thought that it was just, because it opens the show, it's just dark and it's 3 women standing around a cauldron.
Yeah.
And it's, and working seamlessly with one another, I think is the thing. Like you don't want, I guess you could, it would be fun to see a version where they have 3 very distinct personalities, but there's something about that interwoven magic of basically like a 3-headed hydra coming out of a cauldron. You
Yeah,
know what
right.
I mean?
You don't want somebody to be like, I'm the grumpy one.
Yeah, exactly.
I
They're not
always
the 7 dwarves.
Yeah, I'm hungry all the time. That's my character. It's how I get into it. I have a whole pizza before every show. Sometimes I don't make it to stage.
Please don't eat that whole pizza again. We're all in this same cauldron.
It's really bad, isn't it?
This gas is super echoey. Do you?
As I don't. I feel like I've seen so many film versions that I think are really good.
Yeah.
For Hexwives, I based all of the main characters on pop culture witches. So they're like the main character is based on Samantha. There's a Sabrina character, and we'll talk about some of those. But for the second arc, I'm sort of talking about like the mythology of these witches, and I went back to the Macbeth witches, the Weird Sisters. And it was fun to dig into that stuff and look at some of these performances and like You're right. Like they're always shown as a unified whole.
Right.
They don't have distinct personalities, which I think is sort of a mark against them. And it was something in the comic that I tried to play against and give them distinct personalities.
Yeah, it is different. It's definitely more ominous though to see the three women. It kind of reminds me. I know they
It's tone setting, right?
Yeah,
in the play.
Well, their lines in the play are all how are they broken up? Is it are they treated like a chorus, or are they?
They have individual lines,
Yeah,
but they're all
right.
coming off of each other.
Right.
Like it's very musical. I've taught Macbeth many times.
Right.
That's right. You were an English teacher.
I was.
Yeah, it's not an iambic pentameter. It's
Right.
da 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 rhyme.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's like a pop song.
Yeah.
But it's also a fun thing to have kids play in the classroom because they
I'm
really
sure
dig into it, which is my favorite portrayal.
yeah. Little kids in a classroom portrayal.
Is 14-year-olds being scary witches. Yeah.
I kind of want to see like 5-year-olds because then
Oh,
you get the
totally.
great like kid performance where they're constantly looking to either side
Double,
to like figure
hubble,
out.
bubble, mubble, fubble.
Now, like, I can't remember as a kid performing and doing that, but now when I watch it, I realize they're checking to make sure everybody's still there. Like, am I being tricked? Did everybody leave? Is this
Everyone
a
on the
joke?
stage or everyone in the audience?
Everybody on the stage. They're like,
When
am
I do
the only
shows,
one
I look
here?
out to make sure everyone in the audience is still there late in the show.
In fact, will you check in mid-performance? Say, how's it going? How am I doing?
Yeah. How's it going, everybody? You still with me? Still with me? All right. Try to keep up, people. Is this thing on?
Did you get it? Did you get what I did there? Did you see it? There's a moment.
That wasn't in the
All
script.
right, so that's the clear victor of this category is the three witches from Macbeth. Let's move on to you mentioned myth and folklore and wanting to dig more into that next year or next season. How do comic books work? Is it a season?
Arcs.
Is
We
it
work
arc?
in arcs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And an arc can be however long.
The Vertigo tends to like, and most comics companies like 5 or 6 issue arcs. I loved Fables, the Vertigo series Fables, and I loved the DC series Sandman. Like those are 2 long running series that I aspire to be like. And what I loved about those was they would do the writers would do like a 6-issue arc followed by a one-off, followed by a 4-issue arc, then another 6-issue, and like whatever the story wants.
Now, an arc is different than like a story arc on a television show in that, forgive my ignorance of this, like they would overlap. There's not like an overlap within a comic book arc. Like an arc will happen, then another writer like Brian Posehn will come in and he'll do 6 issues. And then
Sometimes it's that. I mean, when it's a single writer, as it was in Starman, as it was in Fables, as it was in Sandman, as I'm doing, the arcs will be, you're sort of doing, like it's Buffy rules, right?
Right.
There's a serialized story going on for 100 issues,
There's a monster
100
of the week.
episodes, but there's also,
Right.
And the monster of the week is not per issue necessarily, but it's per arc.
okay.
Whether it's 2 issues or 6 issues.
Well, let's let this get you prepared for your myth and folklore arc.
Oh boy. Which you could also throw the Macbeth witches in there.
Yes.
If you wanted to.
We're going to start way back at the beginning with Hecate and Circe.
Hecate.
Hecate. Did I say that wrong? Is it Hecate? I thought it was Hecate because I speak English. Morgan Le
Speak English,
Fay.
witches.
Morgan Le Fay.
Yep.
The witch from Hansel and Gretel and the Baba Yaga.
Both all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Do you have any of your characters, like, are any of these popping to the forefront of your mind for that have been your characters based on these?
They are. The witch from Hansel and Gretel is one I used as one of the 3 sisters, who are sort of like the Ur witches for this coven.
Right.
And
She always coming in with treats.
she will lure people to her house. I read this great book before starting the comic called No Go the Boogeyman, which is sort of about witches and ogres and sort of folklore monsters. And the best thing I found from that was the phrase child guzzler. These creatures and the witch from Hansel and Gretel is one of these, is known as a child guzzler. And like cannibalism is huge in this kind of folklore.
Right.
I thought that was so interesting.
And these are characters that eat children.
Yeah, but it's also so much about eating, right? Hansel
Right.
went to the house because he wanted to eat that house. Like it's all about the most primal instincts of like eating and shitting.
Right. Fair enough.
It's Alton Brown's fairy tales. Did you know a witch can eat 3 people? And this is how you prepare them.
So I do love Baba Yaga. I love the iconography.
Which came first? Because Baba Yaga and the witch from Hansel and Gretel feel very similar.
Yeah.
Hansel and Gretel was handed down. That's folklore handed down. The Brothers Grimm. That's
1500s.
That's
Right.
well, the Brothers Grimm wasn't that early. I feel like those were written down and sort of codified in the early 19th century is when they were kind of set.
Oh, maybe.
Even if that wasn't the brother Grimm's time. But Baba Yaga also goes back centuries and centuries.
Yeah.
I learned about her in like 3rd grade when we were studying Russian culture. And I used to draw her chicken foot house.
Which is a great image.
The greatest.
So great.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like, oh, well, that's such evocative image of trees when I heard that, like with their trunks and their roots. And it was like, no. The house can like hike up its bridges and run.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's way more terrifying. Like there's nothing, you want to talk a witch with teeth. Baba Yaga is the witch with teeth.
That's true.
Yeah.
What does she do though? Like
I think she's a child guzzler.
She's a child guzzler. That's why I was curious
Yeah.
which came first.
Yeah, I don't know.
The chicken feet or the egg feet.
And there are a lot of similar legends and monsters in
right.
each culture. So it's they're from the same family tree.
I like the Hansel and Gretel witch mostly for portrayals over the years, including the Warner Brothers cartoon.
Sure.
And I also loved the I know not many people did, and I might be in the minority on this. I loved that movie that was Jeremy Renner and I forgot who the woman was in it. That was Hansel and Gretel with shotguns fighting witches.
Oh yeah, that was Elizabeth Olsen.
That's Elizabeth Olsen.
Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
so.
it was. That movie is bananas and really fun.
So ridiculous.
Yeah. To have the Hansel and Gretel witch be the big bad of an action adventure gun toting.
Who played her in that? Do you remember?
The
witch.
witch? I'm not sure. There was a lot of heavy makeup in that.
Ah.
Which means probably Helena Bonham Carter.
Right. Potentially. Let's talk briefly about Circe. Would you consider Circe in this mix of witches? Circe being from the Odyssey that lured sailors in and turned them into animals with potions.
For sure.
Yeah.
She's one of the first witches. There's a great book, and again, I did a brief interview with the author of this book. Called Circe, which is sort of a reframing of the Odyssey from Circe's point of view and explaining why she turned Odysseus's sailors into pigs. And like, that's the thing she gets a bad rap for.
I mean, as things to get a bad rap for, that should be on the list.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But what Madeline Miller, who wrote this novel, was talking about, and she's a sort of classic scholar as well, was that like Circe has this other stuff. She appears in other myths where she's sort of, if not a benevolent force, then at least a neutral one, where she's like, Circe gets a bad rap.
Right.
People don't talk about how she let Odysseus stay on her island for however many years, so he'd be safe from whatever else was after him. The pigs thing, yes, that happens. That was a different incident.
Hey.
But I do recommend, Circe is a great book. She's a terrific writer, too.
And sticking that far back in history, let's talk a little about Hecate or Hecate. How do you say it?
I say Hecate.
Hecate, that's the beer.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm going to be honest, I get confused. I'm going to have me a Tecate. Let me crack open this bottle of Tecate.
I don't know a lot about Hecate. Do you?
Yeah.
No, I figured we had you here because we're doing all our research by proxy with you. We've got Kate McManus's research, and then you've interviewed all these witch authors.
She's a Greek witch.
Yeah. She kind of lumped Hecate and Circe together in my brain as like the originators of witches and mythology.
And Circe's probably the more notorious of the two.
Right.
Yeah, I think Hecate is sort of a benevolent goddess type. Although she's like goddess of necromancy, goddess of ghosts and supernatural business.
So she's more just a goddess of the dark stuff.
Yeah.
From ancient.
Goddess
doesn't mean
of
she's
witchcraft.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's interesting. Listen, write in. Let us know.
Sure. And
Send us all your letters.
Finally on this list, the one we haven't talked about yet, Morgan Le Fay from the Arthurian legend.
I don't know a lot about Arthurian legend.
Honestly, really the best version that you've seen paintings of her.
Excalibur.
She was supposedly Arthur's sister who was jealous of him and practiced witchcraft. But really the version that I like is, the one from The Sword and the Stone. Her battle with Merlin, that super wacky battle with Merlin at the end,
was that?
where they just keep turning each other into different animals.
I didn't realize that
right.
was her. I didn't realize that was that character. I haven't seen that since I was a child.
But out of this category, it sounds like the one that's got the richest, gotten the richest conversation out of us anyway is the witch from Hansel and Gretel.
Who doesn't even have a name?
Yeah.
No.
Well, then do you take
Helen.
Baba Yaga because she has a chicken foot hut?
And is
just
the
because she didn't
prototypical
lure
version.
some German kids to her house to eat them?
She is a
Well, I
guzzler.
say-
We don't know what kind of cook she is either.
Points for luring German kids.
Right.
That's true.
Also,
Maybe
but-
she knew.
Yeah.
She knew it was going to happen.
Points to Baba Yaga for a wonderful monologue from David Dasmalchian at the in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes,
about the Baba
was that
Yaga.
right? Runner about the Baba Yaga. Yeah,
That's right.
The good
That was
Baba
his runner,
Yaga.
and they turn to him and, what is the Baba Yaga? You do not know the tale? And the Baba kicks in. Oh, it's so good.
I guess you do have to go Hansel and Gretel because she did make an entire house out of food,
Right?
Yeah.
which you would like. And she probably,
She's a witch and an architect.
and she's got like a nice industrial
chef.
oven.
And a chef.
She feeds the kids.
Yeah.
She doesn't eat them right away. She's
No,
like, come,
fatten some up.
yeah, you want to eat some of the house? That's
Yeah.
fine.
The thing I had forgotten about in the Hansel and Gretel story that I only hit when I was doing Hexwise research was, so she puts them in a cage to fatten them up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's something about like her going in to feel, if they're fat enough.
Because she's blind.
Right.
Right.
Which I did not remember.
Right.
No, yeah.
Or it's dark in the cage or whatever. And then Hansel puts like a chicken bone out.
Yeah, so she feels that he's not fat enough yet, so that's how he gets to stay longer.
Oh, that's right.
Right, but
She
also
feels the chicken bone. She's
so
like,
dark.
well, he's not fattened up yet, so
Yeah.
he gets to live and eat just a little while
Yeah.
longer.
But remind me
dark.
something. I'm fortunate enough to have had my sight my entire life. I don't know if she lost her sight or was born not sighted, but if you're out there and you're visually impaired, you know what a arm feels like and what a chicken bone feels like, right? How they're
I
different.
mean, I imagine you could tell the difference if you can construct an entire house. If you're a chef and an architect and blind.
I think a lot of magic went into that.
Yeah.
And that's also why she has to have this candy house. She can't go out and hunt for food.
Right,
She has
I
to
think-
lure people for food.
I think the
true.
Grimm brothers used the Acker and Blacker approach to magic. Like, fine.
Makes sense.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Chicken bone, guess it's an arm. Let's
Yeah.
move on.
That works.
That image is so creepy to me of
Yeah.
like reaching in, blind witch reaching in, feeling a chicken bone.
Yeah, you imagine the spindly hand, like a shaft
Yeah.
of light. The spindly hand kind of creates a, yeah, of
gross.
course. Yeah. Very
So-
frightening.
Hansel and Gretel's witch.
I say yes.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Baba Yaga. I mean,
Dos Vidania.
Baba Yaga. There you go. All right, we're gonna do. Let's move on to. I'm saving like current pop culture and like the big pop culture witches for last.
Do we have to take an ad break? What's going on?
Should we take an ad break?
Let's
now?
do one more and then we'll take
All
it
right,
out.
we'll do that. We'll
can't
do it.
believe
That's
that's
true.
For goodness sake.
That's true. We'll do one more, and we'll move on to this. I love this one. Now we're getting into my particular nerddom. Cartoon witches.
Yeah.
We have the witch from Snow White, whose name is on that thing. Will you?
Maleficent?
No.
No.
Oh,
It's
you're
on
talking
on the thing that Kate sent.
Oh, right.
You and I have the same.
Does
thing
she have
open.
a name? I thought
she
she
does
was
have a
just
name.
the-
Queen something.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Her
remember.
name, I'm going to tell you guys.
You're-
And this is not Phil at all. I just want you to know how excited I am to have you here.
How remember at
first
the
of all.
beginning when I was like, "You leave that one open, and I'll have this one open."
Nope.
It's good to slow down the pace.
Definitely
of the
wasn't
podcast.
listening. Listen,
Yeah.
we've been going for too long.
It's like Hal's been pitching an important
All right,
game.
while you're looking that up, I'll give you
Yes.
time for a drum roll. I'll tell you the other three.
Yeah, please.
Maleficent.
Interesting. Don't know if I would categorize her as a witch, but go on.
Interesting. Okay. She can turn herself into a dragon.
She's a magic user.
All right.
Doesn't make her a witch.
Interesting.
It's what her belief
Meaning
system
like
is.
she dated magic just for his money.
Yeah.
Ursula, the sea witch.
Big fan.
Big fan of Ursula.
Yeah, love Ursula.
And of course, the Margaret Dumont to Bugs Bunny of witches, Witch Hazel.
Who was also the
Witch
witch in the
Hazel.
Hansel and Gretel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a great actor.
Yeah.
She could be in the Hansel and Gretel as well as Bugs Bunny.
Yes. And Queen Grimhild.
Grimhild. Thank you, Hal.
that's
from Snow
right.
White. Oh,
Yeah.
you both say it like we knew.
No, that's familiar. Well, I knew it from
Now,
when you
what
sent
makes-
me that list.
What makes her not a witch, or what makes her a witch and Maleficent not a witch? Or would you say the same thing about both of them?
I don't know. I think she's generally more considered a witch. I think is
Is
Maleficent.
it because she has that old crone look at the end of Snow White?
I guess so.
Because Maleficent is.
Well, she uses a magic mirror. She changes her form. She poisons an apple.
Yeah, I
she
think it's-
displays a wide variety of powers.
It's a lot of witch tropes, whereas Maleficent is doing more, I don't know, broadly sorcerer tropes.
Right.
Sure. I mean, you could call her a witch.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Does it really matter because it's going to be Ursula?
It's going to be Ursula.
Yeah.
It is going to be Ursula. I do love Witch Hazel, though.
Witch Hazel is super fun.
Witch
Yeah.
Hazel's like the Kathy of pop culture witches. she doesn't want to be alone. When she runs, she leaves bobby pins in the air behind her.
Oh,
she has
yeah.
one tooth that's also part of her lip.
She's also like a great, there's not a lot of comedy witches on here. So
Yeah,
to have
sure.
a really funny,
Yeah.
and as a foil for Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
She's so funny.
And all four of those are so well designed too. Like they each have distinct looks. They each have that sort of speak to their personalities, which
Yeah.
I really love, and which is why I love Ursula. Is like you could pick her out of a lineup. She's not a generic witch character,
Right.
but
Yeah.
her personality is so big.
and so fun.
So much fun. Like so
Yeah.
malevolent and joyful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she went with like, as you so often hear it, how like if you had a Halloween cassette of sound effects and it was witch voice, you just hear like, but Ursula has this like New York smoker,
Yeah.
like hacking, like,
It's
so fun.
Pat Carroll is the actress.
Yeah.
And for these interviews, I tried to get her. She is retired from the business and she does not do interviews. She's like
wow.
85. She's pushing 90 for
She's
sure.
earned it. Yeah.
She's earned it.
But
yeah.
I would love to talk to her about playing Ursula.
Oh, and also one of the greatest Disney songs of all time.
Absolutely.
The best, I
Yes.
think the best Disney villain song of all time.
Yes, and the best Disney villain, as we determined
That's right.
with
That's
Autumn.
right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
So,
which
makes
and I
sense.
think what leaned her over the edge in that episode was her using a mollusk and squishing it to death so she could have lipstick for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you get
So dark.
you get a full range of like cruelty,
Yeah.
but charm, and
Yeah.
also
And she's
just like
fun.
full power
Which
on
the
display.
best villains have.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Snow White Witch is sort of a great, again, like a trope maker, right? She uses a lot of the tropes of being a witch, but there's not a lot of personality. Like, she's just kind of evil.
Yeah.
Maleficent has a good personality and again, great design. And I don't think her plan is great.
Right. She's not the great mastermind.
No.
Yeah.
Which is what I get. Another thing I really like about Ursula is she's like, I got this locked down. I got a contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. She has a good
Yeah,
legal
she's
team.
smart.
She is.
All right. So, before we go into our ad break, here's what we have so far. The three that are moving on to the finals, against what will no doubt be a formidable opponent are, the three weird women from Macbeth, Hansel and Gretel's Witch, and Ursula. And in a minute, we're going to find out, this last category, pop culture witches. But until then, please listen to these pitches for some other great podcasts on the Maximum Fun Network.
In a world dominated by Dude Bro movie podcasts. A world where Casey Affleck has an Oscar and Angela Bassett does not. Only one podcast is brave enough to call bullshit. Who Shot Ya? With Ricky Carmona.
A lot of people don't know Porg's Puerto Rican.
Alonzo Duralde.
I would eat Oakjaw.
April Wolf.
I want to interrupt and say that the fish man was real sexy.
Drea Clark.
I have a real soft spot for King Kong.
And women of color.
I was like, damn!
Ryan Coogler got final cut.
Coogler got final cut!
I just felt like the film was so sour and so completely irrelevant to basically anything in life.
Who Shot Ya? Listen every Friday on Maximum Fun or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is there a dog in a car at a bar on the street? Yay!
I'm Allegra Ringo, a small dog owner. My dog Pistachio howls when she's excited.
And I'm Renee Colvert, a big dog owner. My dog Tugboat tips over when he's sleepy.
And we co-host a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog that airs every Tuesday. We bring you all things dog.
Yes, dog news, dog tech, dogs we met this week. We also have pretty famous guests on Butt Legs. We're not going to let them talk about their projects.
No.
Just want to hear about those dogs.
We don't want to hear about your stuff, only your dogs. So join us every Tuesday on Max Fun.
And we're back.
Ooh. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into it.
All right.
One last category.
One last category, but this is the biggest one
of categories.
Some of them I've lumped into pairs for like if they're on the same show or whatever, but here we go. Willow and Tara from Buffy, both of them.
Yeah. Let's get rid of Tara. She didn't have enough screen time. I think
Right.
she was great.
Let's leave it at
We
Willow.
love Amber Benson.
Yes.
But,
I really put it in because
Yeah.
we love Amber Benson.
Yes.
but Willow's
Willow's
like,
the one.
had a great story arc,
Right.
had interesting powers and was a very Like they came from a personal place, which I liked.
Now this one is also a pair, and I would like to eliminate one of them and just keep the other. And you mentioned that this one has been very instrumental in your book. Samantha and Endora. Can we just keep Endora?
I think we have to talk about them, on their own merits.
Fair enough. But I love Endora.
I love Endora.
Yeah.
She's the Ursula of 1960s television.
Exactly. Yeah. She's like a mod Ursula wearing rugs. Like clown makeup and rugs. She was
so many scarves.
Yeah. She is so funny. You know what she looks like? She looks like if Padgett's closet became sentient. That's Endora.
100%.
Yeah, that's it.
We also have Sabrina of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Which iteration?
Yeah.
We got comic book.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
We got
I was thinking Melissa Joan Hart, but
we have Kiernan
Cartoon
Shipka
as well.
Yeah.
What?
Kiernan Shipka's in the new Netflix
In like
Sabrina.
a dark-
I've not seen the Netflix
great.
Sabrina.
I'll tell you this. I'll plug that show. It's great.
Plug it.
Kiernan's awesome. It's in the way that Riverdale is dark Archie. This is dark Sabrina, and it gets into a lot more of the witchy stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Well, let's stick with just the character then, because you have a million iterations of Hansel and Gretel's witch. You have a million iterations of the three women. So let's say the character Sabrina.
And the Melissa Joan Hart is very similar to the comic book originator.
Right. We've got the colors. We've got the Scarlet Witch from the MCU. We've got the White Witch from C.S. Lewis, and we have the Red Witch from Game of Thrones.
I reject all of those.
Yeah. Good,
Witch,
because I don't know enough about any of them.
well, let me briefly. Red Witch, yes, is a witch. I don't care for Game of Thrones.
Scarlet Witch is a name.
Scarlet Witch is just a name. She's not a witch.
Yeah.
She just
powers.
she just has powers.
Have her powers changed a lot in the comics? Because I remember, she went from just sort of hex powers, like somebody's going to fire a bullet, she changes the odds that they're all duds to 1-to-1.
Yeah.
To there are no mutants anymore.
Now they're just broadly magic.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
Broadly magic powers.
Acker and I just wrote a book with a Scarlet Witch type character. Like it was a mashup of Scarlet Witch and the new Wolverine X-23 called Weapon Hex. Nice. It's fun. And so I had to look into Scarlet Witch, a character with which I was not very familiar. I still don't understand her powers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or her origin.
Apparently her her powers blowing up hospitals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I do like Scarlet Witch in the Avengers movies.
Yeah. She's great.
Like
Another Elizabeth Olsen role. Do you think
she was
Elizabeth
not in
Olsen
that movie, by the way?
What?
She was not in the Hansel and Gretel.
Oh, she wasn't. Who was the woman in the Hansel and Gretel?
Gemma Atherton.
Oh, sure.
Sure, the very famous Gemma Arterton.
Name your 5
who's
favorite movies.
Really fun in that movie.
And then the White Witch is what, a Narnia
White Witch
thing?
is
I
a
don't know
Narnia
that.
thing. Yeah. I just liked. I only saw Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I never read the book as a kid because I knew they'd eventually make a movie.
Is that how you got through a lot of school?
Oh yeah. Templeton the Rat in Charlotte's Web. I never read the book, but I know he has that song, right?
You're absolutely right.
Where he dances around eating at the carnival.
Best part of the book.
Yeah, best part of the book.
Every time I think you reached peak mark, you pull something out from your past that's like, oh my God, you have Mr. Magoo'd your way through life. Like somehow the movies came out the day before the test and you saw it gotta be plus. I guess I'm going to Harvard now. What?
You know what? He's doing better than all of us.
He's doing great. Look at him.
I'm having a good time.
What
Look
else
at
you
this
got?
guy. I have 3 more. 3 of my personal favorites.
Yes.
2 from Harry Potter, and that would be Professor McGonagall and Hermione Granger. And of course, the iconic, I'm melting, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
Now, I'm still talking about the character because 2 different iterations of her being
but we know
the Wicked Witch of the West and Elphaba in Wicked.
Yeah, but it's Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's the performance.
Right.
And in fact, that's
But I don't want to give short shrift to Wicked because if we're talking witches, that is a juggernaut of a Broadway musical about witches.
And it was, and I talked to
2 of them, her and Galinda turned Glinda.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it, but I did talk to Winnie about that, and it was one of the first. It was at the forefront of humanizing this frequently villainous character.
Right.
Like Bewitched did that, but she wasn't like she was sort of a toothless witch.
Right.
Much as Elizabeth Montgomery was my first crush.
Right.
And like I Married a Witch is a great movie from I think the late 30s. Again, she's sort of toothless, and Bell Book and Candle is another great one. But there's not a lot of it's not a very deep humanity.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what Wicked does for the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right. And it's I don't know how deep into the story of it you guys went in your conversation, but I've seen the musical several times and I love it. And I think it's, the story of the musical basically being how does she become the Wicked Witch of the West? And it is, this society in Oz is horrifying. From the hierarchy of power on down, like, through. And so this really corrupt society is what is telling her that she is wicked. And she, just because of the way she looks, because she's green.
I was going to ask that. So
and by the end
is that covered in the story why she's green?
Yes.
Okay.
And by the end, it is her big turn. It's like watching an anti-hero happen. It's really fun. It's fine. You want me to be wicked? I'm going to be wicked. And
I gotta see it, man.
Yeah, it's really, really
It's the Breaking
great.
Bad of musicals.
It is. It's the Breaking Bad of musicals. There's heart to it, and she's a sympathetic character throughout. And
so she's a contender.
I still put quotes around Wicked at the end when I say that.
But she's for sure a contender from this list because we do get to see these iterations, right? We get the very human version, and we get the fearful wicked version.
Right.
And I do believe that the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz is acting out of fear.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that's
fear of.
It's a great motivation for many villains.
Fear of what?
It's losing power.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And mourning the loss of her sister as well.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
true. This is acting out.
Yeah, she's losing power to the woman who killed her sister.
That's true.
And the woman who she knows can take her out of, like, the threat arrives, has already taken out her only ally in all of Oz. We don't count. Obviously, the flying monkey, like the soldiers at the end, as soon as she's gone, they're like, "Great job, Dorothy."
Well,
like, take it with you. Here, have a broom. Do you need 20?
It's so funny that I have seen Wicked more recently than I have seen The Wizard of Oz. So when you say that, I'm like, well, that's not why. I mean, the reason why is because she did this and this and this and this. And her sister was actually, you know what I mean?
Oh, funny.
Let's talk about the Harry Potter witches.
Yeah.
Let's pull one of those to hold on to
I'm
for now.
shocked you didn't pull like Bellatrix Lestrange or
Bellatrix. Bellatrix is amazing. I didn't want this list to be 10 miles long. Or I would be like, Luna and Mrs. Weasley. And you know what I mean?
Mrs. Weasley's a great
Mrs. Weasley's
witch.
amazing.
What about Ginny? I feel like Ginny doesn't
do enough. Ginny doesn't do anything.
I haven't seen the sequel play because it's 6 hours long.
Child,
yeah, but I think she's in it.
I read it, yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
So listeners can let us know if Ginny really holds her own if she's in that, which I think she is.
Yeah.
But I think like if there's only going to be, because we did have to whittle this down some, and I think if there's going to be one from Potter, it's going to be either McGonagall or Hermione Granger.
I like McGonagall. I love Hermione. I loved seeing her grow up in the books and in the movies, but I think McGonagall is one, so fully formed, and two, as much as we do get to see Hermione be a badass witch, like McGonagall has that from the jump.
Yeah,
sure.
McGonagall, her earned status is so high.
Yeah, it really is. And what I really love about that character is she never goes along. Like, even when she's no matter whose side she's on, like she's on Dumbledore's side, but she'll still get in his face, which I really appreciate. But my question is this.
Yes.
When do we see her use her powers? What are her powers? Are they particularly witchy?
Doesn't she bring bring stones to life?
She brings down the army with, I don't remember exactly what
she turns a wall into.
There's a wall, there's the big wall of soldiers, and they become the army that defends Hogwarts, and she then turns to one of the other teachers and goes, I always wanted to use that spell, which is one of my favorite lines of hers. She also out-battles Severus Snape.
That's right.
When he tries to attack Harry at the very end, or in book 8, and she comes out and they have a brief duel that
this book he read.
Yeah. It's book
no.
It's book
I called
7.
it book 8.
You saw the movie. It's movie 8.
Yeah, it's movie 8. Yeah, it's book 7 and it's movie 8.
You just walked off the girder. I can't believe it happened.
Yeah, but you know what? You caught me, Hal. Thanks, buddy.
I'm here for you. I do want to say in favor of Hermione Granger that she is the glue of those 3 kids.
Oh, for sure.
And is the reason why Harry makes it to book 7 or movie 8, or play 1. So she's the most competent of all of them.
For sure.
She is I don't know that she's the most powerful of all of them, but she certainly has learned enough to.
Which is something I really like about her too, is she's self-made. Like, she's a terrific character, and I think the reason I would take Hermione over Willow is they're both self-made witches, right? But Hermione, one, uses she never goes to the dark side.
Right.
Which is, good and bad. But good for the character.
Good for the character.
Yeah.
Not always the best for a story.
Right. But certainly good for the character and best for this story.
Right.
But also, like, there's something to, like, she's a fully formed character who we get to see grow more nuanced, over the course of the 7 books. And that's, I don't know, you grow to love her as a person. Whereas Willow always feels very much like a character to me.
Yeah, and she's also always going to be lower status in the magic world because she's a mudblood.
Yes, there's so much loaded into.
Easy.
Can you say that?
I'm a mudblood. Okay. I can use it.
I just didn't know if we could say it on Max Fun.
Right.
We have to bleep Max Fun.
All right. While we're talking about TV witches, we've still got. We mentioned Sabrina. We talked about Willow. We've talked about Endora. Let's talk about Samantha.
Very briefly on Sabrina. On one of the Pop Culture Witches panel I did, I had Nell Scoville, who created the Sabrina TV show for ABC. And the reason and again, we were, I think, a little too old for the Sabrina show, but the reason Sabrina does not make the cut for me, even though I love the idea of this fun-loving teenage witch, is Nell talked about, to her, the show was never about witchcraft. It was never about magic.
It was about growing up.
It was a coming of age story, and it was first and foremost a comedy. And like, to me, that's why the witch stuff never goes very deep.
Right.
Yeah, and the comics too. I read a ton of those comics growing up. I'm a huge Archie fan. And the magic was always a device. It wasn't really as important. It was like, how do I hide that I'm a witch from Harvey?
Right.
Like, it was that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
which is more like Bewitched.
Right.
Which now, I've just given you a segue.
Right, you have. Let's talk about Bewitched. Since you mention it.
Another male fantasy. What if that lady at home did magic?
Yeah, that really, the world's most powerful being worked for me.
But the crazy thing, and one of these sort of jumping off points for Hexwives is Darren married this witch, which I get. Like, she is beautiful, she is charming, like she is second to Mary Tyler Moore in 60s Wives.
Right.
But he never let her do magic. The rule in the house was no magic. And it was the same in I Dream of Jeannie, which I think is a much lesser show.
Right.
But it was the same idea where he has this genie. One, he makes her live in a bottle.
Yeah.
And two, no magic in the house, which that's insane to me.
Yeah. Whether if the only magic you're using is Accio and things just flying into your hand when you need them.
They didn't have remote controls then. She could have just turned the channel on the TV for you.
Yeah. If she said,
Darren.
Here's what every episode of Bewitched should be. It's just the two of them sitting on the couch, her glaring at him going, this house would be a lot easier.
Right.
Life would be a lot easier if I could use magic in the house.
Exactly.
Like, every episode should just be that.
Well, it's so controlling. And I Dream of Jeannie is worse because she literally calls him master.
Yeah. That's not a good look.
But it's that idea of like, all right, little lady, you just sit here and don't use any magic, and then I'll go work at is that like ad agency he did in that one? He worked in an ad agency.
I mean, in Bewitched.
He worked for the military and he was like an astronaut or something.
Yeah, if the pilot for the show was just, all right, little lady, don't use any magic while I'm gone. Here I go. Oh, wow, suddenly everything's so much larger, and I have she's turned me into a fish. Okay, I am a goldfish lying on the floor with no air. I'll be dead soon.
Now I'm dead.
Goodbye.
Like, what do you need magic for? I've got a penis. We'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Which is why I did love when Samantha's dark cousin would be in. Do you remember this? I think her name was Serena.
Yeah, I think so.
And it was also played by Elizabeth Montgomery in like a black wig.
And a goatee.
But she was like, Samantha, why are you wasting your time with this guy? Like, she'd do what Endora would do also. Yeah. But it was a great, like, she was my style.
I think that's why I would take Endora, by the way, over Samantha, is because she's the one who's like, you don't need this.
Yeah.
She's got a more liberated mind.
Well, I love that, like, she had this sort of Magneto point of view. It was like, we are superior creatures to these humans.
Yeah.
Which, that's hilarious to play in a sitcom.
Yes.
All right. So let's take a look then. we've spoken about all the ones that we have in our pop culture witches category. It sounds like, our choices are, the Wicked Witch of the West, aka Elphaba, and, Professor McGonagall was the other one.
Not Hermione?
I thought we were saying that McGonagall, I
like Hermione
I agree
too.
that McGonagall though
I think when we're talking about pop culture witches, right? Here's what it comes down to.
McGonagall has the pointy hat and the power
Exactly.
from day one.
She's tropier.
And it's the same, she's tropier and Hermione is the same thing that Sabrina is, which is coming of age story.
Yeah.
My first thought when I think of Hermione isn't witch.
She's a witch.
My first thought of Hermione is
I agree.
Hogwarts student who is part of this entire saga.
I agree.
McGonagall, you go, she's a cat in her first, in the first shot that you see her in the book.
The first shot of the book, yeah.
Yeah, in that first shot of the book, she's a cat.
Here's what I think it comes down to, and I can help push us to our final decision here.
Please.
For me, and again, I've spent weeks thinking about this,
Right.
knowing we were going to do this,
Yes.
and thought about all these options, although I didn't have the Harry Potters in my head, because I don't think they ever, or they don't frequently call them witches.
Right.
But they certainly are. For me, I want my witch to have an edge. And it's why I like the Wicked Witch of the West. It's why I like Ursula. And it's why I like Endora, but I still don't think Endora is,
she's not the number one.
Yeah, she doesn't have the staying power or like, she's not big enough. She's
no
a supporting
tropes.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think that's the point against McGonagall is she's a supporting character, even though she's got to be in the top 5 witches.
Right.
She's still a supporting character and therefore can't be the best pop culture witch.
All right.
Right.
Well,
So then who are we
in
taking
that
for this
case,
category?
I think Wicked Witch of the West.
I think it has to be the
I
Wicked
think
Witch of
so
the
too.
West. I am going to now give us our final 4, and then here's what we'll do. We'll go around in a circle. I'll eliminate one. Hal, you eliminate one.
I know who I'm choosing.
You already know.
Do I have to eliminate? Can I just choose?
Well, you'll get. Well, I'm curious at the. Would you want to say?
I'd like to hear the final 4.
Yeah. Okay.
The final 4 we've already got. If we're using the Wicked Witch of the West, then we have the 3 weird women. We have Hansel and Gretel's witch, and we have Ursula.
Okay.
I will eliminate one. Do we want to take a temperature to see where we all are?
I want to know who Ben.
I want to know
thinks
who
it
you
is.
think it is.
I think it's got to be Ursula.
I think it's. I was just going to say it's Ursula.
It's Ursula.
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
I think she embodies so much of what we want out of a pop culture witch.
Yeah.
Which is, yes, the magic, all the witch tropes of spells and bad deeds and dark magic, but she has this edge, but she's also crazy charming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
really
she's
fun.
compelling to watch. Like, she's certainly the most compelling character in that movie, which is full of compelling characters. I really like The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
She has this great song, which I don't see the Wicked Witch of the West getting a song.
Oh, so you haven't seen the book Wicked?
Yeah. Oh man, if you read that book, I can't wait till you read that book and hear Defying Gravity.
Yeah. It's so good.
Who wrote the songs for that?
Stephen Schwartz.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which, like, that's great. Look, if anyone wants to send me tickets to see Wicked, I'll go see it.
It's fantastic.
You're so generous.
Yeah. I'm very big-hearted.
I'm just going to spend the next few days sending you YouTube links to high school productions of it.
Yeah. So you can see the kids looking left and right while they're on stage.
That is
Are
not
you guys
the
punking
way.
me? Popular.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be Ursula. I think there are a lot of strong contenders, but she's the worst witch and the best witch.
Yeah. Well,
there
Hal?
you go. People of the world, I want somebody out there to suggest best sea monsters so we could give her a clean sweep.
this
Will
is
she
my
be the
question.
first where she wins
I want
3?
her to-
She's
Wait,
won
Is she
2
the first
episodes
who's
now.
won 2?
She's the first who's won 2. Well, not the first who's won 2.
No, there have been a few.
that
that
I think
won.
others have won 2. But
Listeners, tweet at us. and
she's
let
got
us
2.
know.
We need a third one.
Yeah.
We haven't done best Disney song yet. Maybe she'll win that. Who knows? We're not going to say now.
shoot.
We're going
Pretty
to
good.
table it. We're going to table it for now. But Ursula is the best pop culture witch. But go check out all of these. There are great books and comics and films and television shows that you can explore here and learn about all these witches. But more than that, asked and answered, by the way. I had to get to the segue. It's such a good segue. You should be reading Hex Wives out now in comic stores. If it's not in your local comic store, go in and demand it. Don't ask nicely. Go, when are you guys getting Hex Wives in? This is ridiculous. It's out today.
That is true. It's a weird dying industry, and the only way that something thrives is if you actually go in or call up and ask for it. You can also get it digitally via Comixology if you read on your iPad or anything, or
there you
computer.
Go. So go to your legitimate digital comic outlets. Go to your physical brick and sticks comic stores. Get Hex Wives, written by our friend. And this is your third time on the show?
Yeah.
And 3-time guest, Ben Blacker.
I'm the Ursula of this show.
You really are.
You poor unfortunate soul.
Is it 3 or 2? Maybe there's one I just attended.
No,
I don't know.
This is the third one because it's the.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Please don't ever have me back.
Don't worry, we won't.
We promise.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me and letting me talk about witches. I'm obsessed. So thank you.
Yeah.
We're very excited about the book, Hex Wives. Coming out Halloween. This topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets. Check out the Maximum Fun subreddit or
email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com or go to Facebook.com/groups/We Got This Podcast and talk about your favorite pop culture, which is there. Let the conversation continue. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus for the exhaustive list. Great job, as always. Graphic designer Uri Kelman, QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thanks to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, our listeners, for giving us a chance to sit down around this cauldron. There is a cauldron here, by the way. And thank you, of course, to Forever Dog.
Yes, and
for
Brett
having us.
Boehm, who is here. You're going to learn more about him if you listen to the Thrilling Adventure Hour. You're going to hear that name over and over again.
Sorry.
He's a rising star in the industry. He's shaking his head. He's laughing over there.
Laughing at us in the corner.
We're just pleased as punch
Hal
to be
just
here.
put a tiara on his head.
I just put it. Yep, he's been crowned officially.
Mark gave him a sash. This is nice.
And we're putting him in the cauldron.
Yep.
Ooh.
Little Mr. Podcast, Brett Boehm.
Thank you. For Hal Loveland, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Loveland. Don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
Wait, keep recording? All right, we're good.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.